and welcome back to the Fixing Football podcast. Me, Martin Naylor, and this week it's just Liam. So welcome, Liam.
Hello, Martin. How are you?
I'm good. Obviously, no Luke or Scott tonight. Luke coming off the running, the fell race victory. And now he's got to deal with the allegations that come with UK athletics. So, we wish him well.
I also believe he's not well again. I think he's getting ill quite a lot. Luke. I hope he's all right.
Well, that fizzy pop.
Big on the fizzy pop, Luke. Really holds him back in his athletic ambitions.
It's a good way to put it. I mean, that, and like I say, we hope the allegations aren't true and he pulls through with all this stuff. We'll just see how that goes. The Premier League is back, thank fucking God. We've had a fun Easter weekend. Recording this on Easter Monday, we've all had our Jesus chocolates. And yes, football is back, and it's been good. You are coming off the back of 2 matches for Bolton.
Yeah, just got in from the second one. A nice little victory against Reading, 5-2. Big win, really, in terms of putting the pressure on Derby, who have now got to go away tomorrow, which will be Tuesday night for those listening.
Portsmouth.
Away at Portsmouth, yeah. And,
that's the big one.
Well, yeah, if that goes the way that obviously I would prefer it to go, we're then back in striking distance, and yeah.
What is
fingers
that?
Crossed.
A Portsmouth win?
Yeah, Portsmouth win we need, really.
Yeah.
I think Portsmouth are gone for us. They're pretty much up now, so we could do with them beating Derby, which will then put them 3 points ahead of us with a game in hand and not too much in the goal difference now. I think just they're 4 goals better off than us, so not much in it. Not much in it at all.
Well, but I think after that, it looks like the run-ins are quite similar as well. I spoke about it a bit ago, but
I've seen
Bolton's last game.
I've seen people saying that their run-ins easier than us, and I think it's slightly easier. But for me, yeah, we've got Portsmouth at home, but I think we beat anyone at home. Home games aren't my concern. We've got Bristol Rovers this Saturday, which I think will be big, but they're all big now. And then the last game, as you say, is Peterborough away. But I think when it's the last game of the season, it's a bit different, isn't it? Anything can happen, really. So hopefully we can go there with something still to play for. And if not, then
how many games left are there? 5?
5 games left now. So fingers crossed we can still have something to play for on the last day. And if we don't get there, then securing third will be very important for the playoffs, because it will mean that we avoid Peterborough and Barnsley, probably. So, and then it's a choice of Lincoln, Oxford or Stevenage. And that's a very different semi-final than having Barnsley or Peterborough. So there is a lot of incentive. Even if we don't finish second, there's a lot still to play for us in finishing third.
But I'm hoping that this result is the one that Bolton needed. Because I don't think it was Stevenage the game on Friday, wasn't it?
Yeah, on its own, that wasn't a terrible result. So away at Stevenage, who, as I mentioned, are gunning for the playoffs, that's 6th place, so they're pushing for that. Tough place to go. On its own, that draw terrible. The problem is because of our run of form as of late and dropping points in, I think, easier fixtures than that has meant that went there having to win and unfortunately didn't. But, all you can do is keep going, and we did that today, so that was good.
Here's a question. Do you think that there is a bigger disparity lower down the leagues in home and away form because you don't have the luxury and the comforts that a Premier League team would get in terms of, for instance, Arsenal can fly to Manchester, at the drop of a hat, the private jet, and everyone's getting massaged and looked after very well along the way, whereas, lower down the leagues, League One, they're going to fucking Lincoln on a Tuesday night with 100 fans behind them. Teams do get good support, but it isn't the same. And, the players are stuck on a coach for 6-7 hours, and there's all these sort of different luxuries that people don't take into account, really, in terms of home and away form.
I imagine the stats are there. Like you, my instinct would say that I think there is probably something in that. Midweek games away from home, if they're more than an hour away, a lot of the time in my head I almost write them off, thinking that that's going to be tough. So
regardless of who it is, just based on the
almost. But then our away form's been poor all year. That's kind of the reason that we're not in the top 2, pretty much. But
I remember when. Go on.
I was going to say there will be stats, which maybe we could look at if we were a different, more researched podcast. But I'm pretty sure that they will back that up. I'd be shocked if they didn't.
It makes sense to me. I remember back when I was in my heyday of playing, it was an early stage FA Cup match, and it was against Stafford on a Tuesday night. And it's like semi-pro level, and I was like, it was literally like the straw that brought the camel's back in terms of that, trying to pursue any sort of career in football or trying to do anything. The fact that you had to take a day off work for 50 quid just to drive down, I can see why players fall by the wayside at 18, 19.
Yeah, a lot of people do sort of don't enjoy that semi-pro level, and I think by 18, 19 they kind of know a lot of the time that they're not going to make it, or they're not going to make it a level that maybe would pay in the way that a job might do, a normal job. So I think that's where a lot of people feel the same way at that level. I would think.
So anyway, the good old days. Let's have a look at the Premier League, and where do you want to start? We can start wherever you want.
Let's start with Man United.
Let's start with Man United because Luke's not here to defend them. So
he also requested that we do as well because he was very keen for us to find out what we thought of Erik ten Hag's plans in that game and the strategy that United really built. So, what do you reckon, first of all, Martin?
Well, I caught the extended highlights later on yesterday evening, and it looked like it was all Brentford for the majority of the game. And on my Super 6 prediction, I had to put 2-0 to Brentford. I thought United were going to struggle. It's a tough place to go, Brentford. They've not put a lot of a good run of form together this season, but I think on the day they can beat anyone at home. And United found that United aren't the most organised of teams, defensively especially, so I always saw them struggling. And for them to get a goal in, the 95th minute, and then you think, oh, fucking hell, they've nicked it here. It's typical United. And then, thankfully, from my point of view, just because I like seeing Luke suffer more than anything, but thankfully Brentford got what they deserved at the end and probably could have got more.
Yeah, the only bit I disagree with is before the game, I was convinced that United would win this comfortably. Brentford have been very poor this season.
Yeah, in comparison to maybe the last two, yeah.
And, United run a decent run of form, as much as they'll like to tell you how things are looking up. So I really favoured United going into this game. And I suppose watching it, and I'm not a Man United fan, so obviously I dig on them a little bit, yeah. But I just don't get what they're doing. What's the plan here? What's the long-term build? I mean, because if they're gonna all this work they're doing off the pitch that they love to talk about now, but all these, all this super system they're getting in place, what player's gonna want to play in that team?
This is it.
No one.
The people will want to play for Man United again when they are at this stage that the fans and everyone wants us to believe they're heading to the glory land. But I don't think that they are going to be a viable project for the big name players who they want to come in to get them there.
Not a chance. And it doesn't matter how good Dan Ashworth is, despite not spotting any of Tonali's problems. It doesn't matter how good he is, right? He's not going to convince someone in that project. No. It's so defensive. Honestly, it was shocking how bad they were. I was embarrassed for them. It was an absolute disgrace. And I was almost happy when they scored. Because it almost, in their head, they were happy and they were validating. I was like, yeah, fine. I mean, you're going from what? 5th to 5th? It doesn't make it a threat of any kind of meaningful sort of contributions to the Premier League this year. So it didn't really matter. But God, they are bad. They cannot proceed with Ten Hag in charge. And there's so many of their players that I would get rid of if I were them. And I would start with Bruno Fernandes.
I've been saying this.
The guy, just absolutely no discipline. Everything that was wrong. Bruno Fernandes was a brilliant player until Ronaldo came in. And then he saw his ass because Ronaldo started to play this sort of doing his own thing kind of role. And now Ronaldo's left. Bruno Fernandes is almost like, well, I can do that. I can be the man. And he's just, everything that was good about him, he doesn't do anymore. And it was just, the guy. Anyway, I could talk all day about Man United, but they're fucking shit. And they're going to be shit next year no matter how many executives they get in and how many marginal gains they have. They're not going to be in the top 4 next year either.
No, I can't see it. And I can't see... I guess we'll see in the summer when it comes to sort of the direction they want to take, but I suspect they're going to start with a clear out and next year will be bare bones. They might get someone in and pay them ridiculous wages. It's not like we've not seen that before. But yeah, I'm sure Luke's been a big backer of the Ten Hag out campaign. So I do think we'll see that, but I think that I think the damage will be done and they'll not get Champions League. They're looking at hopefully nicking 5th, and that's Tottenham or Villa losing a lot of form over the last 6-7 weeks, whatever we've got left. So I can't see it. And I think they're going to struggle.
Yeah, toilet.
And next season will be. I think they've seen that this year is hard in terms of the teams in front of them, especially the top 3. I think everyone sort of predicted that anyway. But then the other teams around them, like Chelsea, will be back in this mix sooner or later, despite Scott's absolute hatred of them at the moment. But Chelsea will be back. Newcastle will be back at some point, and then you're still going to have Villa and Spurs in and around that argument, and West Ham aren't far behind. So this is the start of a real steep hill for Man United, and we just got to see how much they decide to chuck at it, or what sort of plan they take. They could use I'm not suggesting that one club has the right way and others don't, but they could use Arsenal as a model, for example, and go down that path. It's been said before. Well,
I think Luke said that, hasn't he, himself? I think
Luke has mentioned Arsenal as the model club a few times, so
yeah,
we'll just see what they do. They've been big-headed about it before. So I think they'll probably sign one big name player who's going to save the day and fix all the problems, and that's going to flop again. And until things drastically change and they fix that roof, then who knows? Liverpool got a win, unfortunately. That pissed me off. Good old Welbeck took the league.
Did you expect a different result out of that game?
No, I didn't, but it annoyed me because I saw it at 1-0 and I was hoping that all the stars would align this weekend, but it didn't.
Scored too early. You can't score too early. Rule number 1. If you're the underdog team, you can't score too early because it's then impossible to win from that position. Statistically, you will lose every single time if you score too early.
Before we talk about the big one this weekend, I thought the Newcastle and West Ham match was good value. That was the early one on Saturday.
Yeah, before we talk about the other game, let's talk about an enjoyable game. Yeah, it's brilliant game. I don't know what Moyes was doing bringing Calvin Phillips on. I don't want to be the person that there's quite a few people criticising Calvin Phillips now, so I'm not gonna. I don't think there's any need for us to do that. But I did wonder. I did wonder when he made that sub. Sort of.
I'm starting to feel a bit sorry for him though.
Are you asking for this to happen almost?
Yeah. You got to feel sorry for him a little bit. I mean, of joining City the way he did, you're almost asking for it. It's such a coin toss between if Pep's going to stick with you and love you or just hang you out to dry, which is clearly what he did. So he's barely kicked the ball for a couple of years. The only way he stayed relevant is Southgate's kept picking him up until recently. And, now he's enduring one of shittest loan spells any player's ever had to go through.
Yeah. I wonder, mate, he's one of those players anyway, you sit there and you wonder, you're like, was he ever any good? Was it the Bielsa system just got the best out of an average player? Was he always sort of this poor, this slow to react? If he's not on the move in transition, is he kind of poor in terms of how quick he is on the ball? Like, I don't know. I'm sat wondering that, to be honest, now.
Maybe, but if there's anyone going to elevate your game, coming from a Bielsa system, it's Guardiola. And that's just a, more elevated, better version of what Bielsa's been trying to do, or was doing, without all the pointless running that Bielsa likes to throw in. But I don't know. I think there was a player in there. To be honest, I hadn't watched or seen much of him until he got the England call up sort of out. It was a little bit out of the blue, really. He'd been playing well-ish. It was more like probably trying to find someone in that position who could fit it. And then
he wants a dynamic player in that position, which is why Henderson was like Henderson 10 years ago now would be ideal for that role. Obviously Henderson was playing a little bit more advanced in a system that didn't have that Bellingham, and maybe Foden wasn't quite there yet. So it's a little bit, that was where Henderson then fit into that team, why it was probably weaker in midfield. But if you played Henderson a younger Henderson in that role now, it'd be perfect. But yeah, I don't know. The last thing Phillips sees now is the spotlight of an England call up. So I don't know. He's nowhere near it. He needs to really think about, this loan will come to an end. He really needs to have a think about what does next, because his career is tanking. He could easily find him down playing lower league football in a few years if he's not careful.
I said talk of Leeds coming back, which might be the move. Get a bit of a hero's welcome, probably, and
maybe. But again,
maybe because they feel sorry for. I mean, he's not exactly left him on good terms, but they might just feel sorry for him and think, "Oh, he was good."
It's not the same system, though. The Wagner system. So I don't know. He needs to be very careful. He needs to go to a manager that will get the best out of him.
I don't think that isn't the place at West Ham. I don't know. I sort of like to see him under Moyes more, but he's the bit parts that he is getting, he's just not doing anything. Anyway, that's. I
think
that was a penalty, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a coin toss. Well, it's like he gets in the way of the ball, and then the other player kicks him, or he stops. Is it Gordon?
I think it's unlucky. Yeah, it's Gordon.
It's unlucky. It's
unlucky. I think Gordon knows what he's doing, but I think ultimately it's a foul if you kick or attempt to kick or trip or attempt to trip an opponent, and he kicks an opponent.
Yeah, so I know what you're saying.
It's a foul, isn't it? Like, it's very unlucky, and but I also wonder about his awareness of taking that big of a swing at it, like in the box. Like, how much time do you think you've got? I think it was poor play, and he got done a little bit, but he does kick him, so it is a penalty. But he's unlucky, obviously.
And a good finish, Harvey Barnes at the end. I like Harvey Barnes as well. I think he's a good player.
Very good player. Very good player. He's got a few games now to put himself in the reckoning for a call-up as well.
It's just a shame that he's going to be fighting with Anthony Gordon both at club level and international level now, probably for the same position.
Well, yeah, I think Newcastle are sort of preparing for that a little bit by playing Gordon a bit more centrally, aren't they?
Right,
They've been using Gordon in a bit more central position and on the right as well, instead of Almiron, because I do think he is an upgrade on Almiron. As much as Almiron's been a good player for them, I think Gordon and Barnes on the two wings would be a significant upgrade on Almiron and Saint-Maximin. So,
the thing with Almiron is he always seems to do all right. Looks like he's got quite industrious and runs about a lot. The people who hate him the most are Newcastle fans. Every Newcastle fan I speak to think he's absolute shit.
I think he takes his time, doesn't he, on stuff. From and again, I don't watch him every week, but when I watch him, what would frustrate me is I think that sometimes there's a quick ball on, maybe Isak's broke away, and he'll take a touch and come inside to try and, like almost drift into a 10 position when theoretically he could play the ball and run into the middle himself. And I feel like that he can disrupt counter-attacks, which I think is something that really winds fans up. If there's a counter-attack, because everyone thinks about it like with a FIFA hive mind, where if I passed him, then he passed him, but that's not how players work. They've all got their own brains and can only see a little bit of pitch that is actually in front of them. But because of FIFA, fans don't think of it that way. So I think
he should have just knocked it there 70 yards then. And
then he can back heel it there, and it's like it doesn't really work like that now. That's not how actual people with individual brains work. So I think like with Almiron, he takes too many touches, and I think it frustrates fans that they don't want that from wingers really.
No, so
Trossard can be a bit guilty of it as well at times, I think.
Yes, big one yesterday. Should we talk about the match then? Big match. First of all, yes. you can play the neutral because you are. What did you think?
What did I think?
Let's just go with the typical neutral view has been that.
Right, so the game itself, neither team did enough to win it, so a draw is quite clear the off result. It was your classic, neither team, I think, was in a position where they wanted to take risks and lose the game.
Yeah.
That was front and centre, particularly of Arsenal's strategy, which I found a bit frustrating as a neutral, because I felt there was a game there for Arsenal to win when I saw the teams lined up, particularly. And particularly on City's right-hand side, which it wasn't a surprise because everyone knew that Stones and Walker wouldn't be playing. So I think there was an area to expose there. And I questioned the decision to play Gabriel Jesus out on the left and Havertz up front. With that in mind, I felt like a natural left-sided gifted player out there maybe could have got more in the game. However, I think the main thing that Arteta wanted was if the ball went up the pitch, that it stayed there for a bit. And I think the players that he had were people that could carry the ball. Particularly Havertz, who Odegaard would keep sending into channels and he would stride to it and hold the ball up, and then he'd look to find a midfielder around him. So I think, look, I think both teams will be happy with a point. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it was hard to watch for about 38 of the first 45 minutes. I think the second half was a bit more even, and we actually started it really well. I thought we might get something at the beginning of the second half. But a point is better for us than them. I feel of the top three, they were third and probably needed to get. I know it's very tight up there, but once City are out in front, I don't think there'll be any catching them.
That's my concern for you. My concern, and Gary Neville mentioned this in the second half of the game. The issue is that of all the three of them, who has the most capability of going perfect for the rest of the season, it's definitely City. And I think that was the cloud on the performance. Like the worry that would be in the back of my mind with 15 to go if I was Arteta. Like we could really dint these here. Would be what I was thinking, but
like I said, a point isn't the worst, and it is better for us than them. But no, I think us and Liverpool are both have to be perfect for the rest of the season. It's got to be 9 out of 9, and I think whichever team is closest to that. This sounds like duh, obviously, but whichever team's closest to that is going to win. Out of the three of us, is still too tight to call, even though Liverpool are, points clear now.
Yeah, I think so. Liverpool feel relentless, and it just doesn't feel like a team that almost should be that. It's
no. I know what you're saying.
It's quite a season they're having with the team they've got. I think they're the weakest of the three sides on paper. Obviously, Mo Salah can be Mo Salah, but I think if you actually consider their team, it is the weakest on paper, and they seem to be just winning games relentlessly. It's some season.
A lot of the predictors are putting them as favourites now, which you'd have to agree with given their form, the way they can get results, and the fixtures they've got left. I think Arsenal's are the toughest of the three teams, with Obviously, we had the away game at City. We've got Tottenham and Man United away to play. Villa, Brighton away as well. Villa and Chelsea at home are the other two sort of tough ones you'd stick out. But all them fixtures that we've got left, Arsenal won last season. So I'm sort of hoping that we can repeat that. My only caveat is that I don't see any of the three teams going perfect 9 out of 9. Just because of the way this season has been. So I
don't think any of them as good as they have been in other years. I think they could do it, and I've alluded to that already, but they're not. It's not the same City side as it was last year. I think we said that early on, didn't we?
So yeah, I'm just thinking that one crazy weekend is going to determine the league somewhere over the next couple of weeks. That it's going to be, hopefully it's Arsenal beating Tottenham and City and Liverpool both losing on the same weekend, I would love it. But yeah, it's tense, and this match at the weekend didn't help that. I was shaking like a shitting dog all the way through it. Not just because I thought we were going to get battered. When you turn it on and City have just got constant possession and Arsenal couldn't get out the half for, like I say, about 35 minutes. It's hard to watch, especially when you're not used to it.
Of course, it's only going to get more tense as well.
Yeah. But on the plus side and the positives, of the 4 games we played, the 2 Liverpool, 2 City games, we've conceded 3 shots on target in them 4 matches. So I think defensively, we're so solid. I just think we will concede less than them 2. And I just think if someone, and this is a call out to any Premier League opposition of Manchester City or Liverpool listening, have a fucking go, please, for me. Mainly for the views that I would get if Arsenal win and the content that it would provide for me and my family's happiness. That I just think that teams like Brighton had like 10, 12 shots on Liverpool's goal yesterday. And Brighton are an alright side, but away from home, they're nothing special. And it's like both City and Liverpool concede a lot of chances this season, and Arsenal don't. And I think we can shore it up if we need to. And we've scored, we've scored more than anyone else this season. So I think I'm still saying that we're in form and we're going to do it. It feels like it's been absolutely ages since we last played.
Well, it was, wasn't it? It's the best part of 3 weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm pinning my hopes on a miracle weekend somewhere or 2. Might have to be 2 weekends in a row that something happens, but that's what I'm feeling. What are you saying? Who are you saying is going to win the league right now? You got to put money on it right now.
Bloody hell! If I was betting now, Arsenal.
Really?
Yes, I do. I think Arsenal will win the league from here, but it could be any one of the 3. Like that, I'm not saying that with any degree of confidence. I do agree that you've got a really solid defense. I think obviously Saliba is probably the second best defender in the league, and Gabriel is miles better than Konate. So your defensive 2 is better than anyone else's defensive 2.
Yeah.
But also in front of them, you've got real, genuine protective players. So obviously, Rice, who's a natural defender. You've got Partey coming in. You've got Jorginho, who plays so deep in his natural playing. You've got the fullbacks that will tuck inside as well. They don't get forward as maybe other fullbacks do in other teams. Yeah. That's your system. So you are more defensively resolute than others. That's a good base. Like it's a good way to do it. You've got by far the highest goal difference.
Yeah, which could turn out to be important.
So yeah, just looking at numbers, you've scored the most goals and conceded the fewest,
which often stands you in good stead to do something.
Yeah, exactly. If you were going to do that, you do well to not win the league and have those statistics. It would be quite a statistical anomaly if you didn't win the league.
Just
So we'll
at
see.
the moment on Sky Bet, Liverpool are 5-4, City 15-8, and Arsenal 5-2. So there's like one in it between the lot. There's nothing much you can. And then the next favourites is Tottenham at 500-1.
Really?
What do you think of the? Let's go for 4th and 5th place, because that's what it's looking like we're going to get at the moment as for the next Champions League spots. Do you think there's anyone other than Tottenham and Villa getting them?
No.
United are the next closest, but I don't see.
They're miles away. They're absolutely miles away. And yeah, I think it'll be Tottenham and Villa. I think it'll be interesting to see who finishes like 7th/8th. I think that's going to be interesting because all those teams really want Europe as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you've got a cluster of teams underneath United of West Ham, Newcastle, Brighton, Wolves. And I'll include Chelsea in that as well because the form has upturned. Despite Scott not thinking it has. I know the Burnley result was bad, but they're unbeaten in the last 5 that I can see here, so that's better than what they were doing before.
Yeah.
So there's 4 points separating those 5 teams. West Ham are currently in 7th, but their form is struggling, which is a surprise because they're at almost full strength now. And whenever they've had Paquetá, Kudus, and why can't I remember the Czech midfielder's name in midfield?
Oh, Souček.
Souček. When they've had all those 3 playing together and Ward-Prowse in amongst that as well, they've been very, very hard to beat. So to see them dipping a little bit, I think is a bit of a symptom of the ill feeling around that, which I cannot get my head around, but whatever. Around that place at the moment regarding the playing style when they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, whatever. They watch West Ham every week. I don't. I'm sure they've got the real reasons, even though I'm looking at a West Ham team that are 7th in the fucking Premier League, that are current European Conference League holders, and in the last 8 of the Europa League.
Yeah, but Moyes and the style.
Yeah,
can't.
But it's not the West Ham way, is it? Of
the West Ham way of going up and down every other season.
Because they're winning things. That isn't the West Ham way. They're right, because they're winning trophies and playing in Europe every year. Anyway, whatever. I don't watch them every week, as I say. They know better than me. But they're struggling a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see who steps up on that. Got a sneaky suspicion it'll be Newcastle that finished 7th. Maybe 8th might get one, and we'll see who's there. Probably West Ham.
Yeah. So that'll be 5th, 6th. Yeah, it will be. Depending on other results, it could be like 9th. Could end up with a European spot as well this year. So
yeah, it could. Yeah, I think there's an actual, and I might be wrong here, but I think there's a version of events that could see the top half of the table getting in Europe.
That's mental, isn't it?
But I mean, I could have completely made that up, but I feel like I've heard that on other more informed podcasts than ours. But
let's just say it sounds right, and we'll go with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be near enough that. If you're 80% right, that's more right than wrong, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it's like 8, then that's 80% right as far as I'm concerned.
Right, well, as soon as it's Easter, we'll call it there. We've got some more topics lined up when we've got less of a hangover to deal with some conversation about football. But we'll deal with that then. We've got some plans for the Euros and about how often we podcast, and like to know people's views on what they would like, whether they want to stick with weekly episodes, whether we just do England specials. We want as many people involved as possible. So if you feel like you've got your opinion on England, let us know. And we'll want as many people involved as possible. I would like to do an episode every day. Whether it just be a short one, and then we'll do big ones when it's England. But I want to do every day, every game day at least. I know there'll be people on holiday and there'll be stuff going on, so there will be some guests if that's the case. But that's my thoughts, Liam.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening and you support another country, which I don't know anyone else. I think Frank, who listens, he says he's French.
I'm not having Frank McCulloch is French. I'm not having that.
Yeah. But anyway, anyone who's from another country, then we'd probably definitely have you on, because that would help. But if you're not and you feel like you could pretend, then,
If you're good at accents. Ireland aren't in this one, are they?
No.
Oh, that'd be too easy. Yeah.
It's just Scotland of the home nations that are in.
It's hard to talk to them. Let's, right. So, yeah, please get in touch about the Euros. We want everyone's opinion as much as possible, and we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for listening. Liam, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You can find all the information to this week's episode, information on next week's, and catch up any of last week's episodes at www.fixingfootballpodcast.com, and you'll find our links there. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye, Liam.
Goodbye, everyone.